What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. This is Legitical Response. We cover political news. We keep you up to date and keep you informed with everything that the government does. Now, we've got an election coming up, and we've been speculating, if you will, about what's the play for the Democrats this time, right? Republicans have caught on to the ballot harvesting and the mail-in voting, all that, the absentee ballots. We've caught on to that, and they're starting to do that these days. So what is the play for the Democrats this time? How are they going to try to manipulate the system to, quote-unquote, cheat legally and get away with it? What are they going to do? Well, they're already out there and putting their lawfare out in the forefront. That's what our story is coming up. But we've been trying to figure this out. And I've speculated that they have absolutely ran out of things to do, right? They're just going to have to continue doing the ballot harvesting and all this other BS that they do, getting hordes of activists to go all over the place and, knock on doors and say, hey, have you filled out your mail-in ballot yet? Or, hey, have you voted? You need to go vote. Blah, 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 blah. Don't forget, Orange Man is bad. People are starting to finally wake up and see that, yeah, you can't do all this. Some of this stuff around the absentee ballots, we had that movie come out, what was it, 1,000 Mules or something like that, which people have claimed has been debunked. But has it really been debunked? No, not all the way. Some of it's been debunked, but some of it is absolutely true. And there is fraud in every single election. The corporate press trying to tell us, oh, there was no fraud whatsoever. Yeah, well, the 64 court cases that Trump brought in 2020 say otherwise, right? But some of them were turned away upon standing. The judges didn't even want to look at the evidence. To me, that's outright insane. How can you see some voter fraud, and not want to look at the evidence? They just didn't want to touch it. There's too much riots going on, if you will. It was just ridiculous, if you ask me. But not any longer. Check this out, y'all. Federal judge tosses Democrats' lawsuit challenging Wisconsin absentee voting requirements. Oh yeah, they're starting to push back. These judges are starting to see the writing on the wall. They're starting to see that the excuses of the Democrats saying, oh, voter ID is racist. Yeah, they're starting to see that that's a bunch of BS. And yes, we need voter integrity. We have way too many open doors where people can come in and commit fraud against an election. Right? We don't need fraud in our elections. We need integrity in our elections. And Democrats seem to come up with some of the most ridiculous excuses as to why we shouldn't have voter integrity. Check this out. A federal judge has thrown out a lawsuit brought by Democrats that challenged Wisconsin's witness requirements for absentee voting, a ruling that keeps the law in place with the presidential election 6 months away. The rules for voting in Wisconsin are heightened interest given its place as one of a handful of battleground presidential states. 4 of the past 6 presidential elections in Wisconsin have been decided by less than a percentage point, including the past 2. U.S. District Court Judge James Peterson tossed the lawsuit Thursday, saying the fact that the law has stood unchallenged in one form or another since the 1960s was telling. And yes, he is correct. It may be debatable whether the witness requirement is needed, but it is one reasonable way for the state to try to deter abuses such as fraud and undue influence in a setting where election officials cannot monitor the preparation of a ballot, Peterson wrote. That is a very logical thing to say. Democrats try to say, oh, it's voter suppression if you can't just allow absentee drop boxes all over the place and just allow anybody to go put absentee ballots into these drop boxes with no cameras, nobody there to witness it, no signature verification, none of this crap. They say that's voter suppression. I say BS on all that. We need all of those things for election integrity. I don't know how logical you can make the case for not having those things, right? Like, it is very logical to have integrity in your elections. And to try to come out and say that it's voter suppression to not have integrity in your elections, that's outright BS. Make a better argument. That's what I have to say, at least. National Democratic law firm Elias Law Group, representing 4 Wisconsin voters, had argued that the state is violating the Federal Voting Rights Act and Civil Rights Act by demanding a witness signature on ballot envelopes. How? Exactly how is that violating the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act? Yeah, they don't really tell you how. The voters argued that they have a hard time securing a witness signature because of health risk, age, and frequent travel overseas. Sorry, BS, that is not a good reason to just throw away election integrity just so you can have absentee ballot drop boxes. I'm sorry, there's not a whole hell of a lot of people that vote absentee, right? Like, as compared to with the people that vote early or go on voting day to go vote. Yeah, it's a small fraction of the population that do this. And plus, the rules around absentee balloting, right? Like, they got the early voting and all this other stuff, so you have plenty of time to get a signature from a witness, get them to fill it out, right? They're even less strict on, minor inconsistencies on some of these absentee ballots. Like, if you don't have an address, small things like that, they'll say that's okay. If the signature isn't quite right, yeah, that's okay. Maybe we shouldn't do that. Yeah. This, especially on the signature verification is very, very integral to voter integrity, if you will. State law requires clerks to reject absentee ballots that are missing a witness's address or signature. A Wisconsin judge ruled in 2022 that election officials cannot correct or fill in missing information on witness certifications, a practice known as ballot curing. The Voting Rights Act prohibits states from requiring a voter to prove his qualifications by the voucher of registered voters or members of any other class. The judge said the voters had not shown that either the Voting Rights Act of 1965 or the Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibits a state from requiring absentee voters to prepare their ballot in front of a witness. This is true. Neither side cites any evidence regarding the effectiveness of the witness requirement in preventing abuses or the number of citizens who cannot vote because of the requirement, Peterson said. But regardless of how effective or burdensome the requirement is, the federal law at issue in this case simply does not apply to it. And that's what the Democrats love to do. They love to interject all kinds of BS into a situation to try to throw you off the trail. Look what they're doing to Donald Trump in this hush money case. Right, just look at Stormy Daniels' testimony for all, right? Like the whole catch and kill testimony. All that's BS, right? Like they're trying to say, I'm not trying to get into this, but they're basically trying to throw all this evidence out there like, yes, Trump did this and they can prove it. Trump did this and they can prove it. Trump did this, they can prove it. None of these things are illegal, but this proves our case, by the way. Yeah, it proves our case. They're trying to inundate the jury pool with all this information, the stuff that Trump did, to try to sway them to find him guilty. But hang on, none of those are crimes. As a matter of fact, there was no crime in this, and I still haven't been able to find the underlying crime to elevate this to a felony. They still haven't come out with that yet. Attorneys for the voters who brought the lawsuit did not return messages seeking comment Friday. A spokesperson for the Wisconsin Elections Commission, the defendant in the case, also did not return a message. 9 states requiring witness signatures to verify absentee ballots in 3 states require an absentee ballot envelope to be notarized, according to the National Conference of State Legislatures. In Wisconsin, witnesses for most voters must be U.S. citizens and at least 18 years old. Witnesses for overseas and military voters are not required to be U.S. citizens. In a random review of nearly 15,000 absentee ballots cast in the 2020 presidential election in Wisconsin, the nonpartisan Legislative Audit Bureau found that nearly 7% of the witness certificates certificates were missing at least one component of the witness's address. The ruling comes ahead of the Wisconsin Supreme Court hearing oral arguments Monday in another case related to absentee ballots. In that one, Democrats are trying to overturn a 2022 court ruling that prohibited the placement of absentee ballot drop boxes anywhere other than inside election clerks' offices. Now, I wonder why they would want to do that. Yes, Democrats just want these absentee ballot drop boxes to be placed just anywhere and everywhere so they can do whatever the hell they need to, calling it voter suppression if you don't allow these drop boxes, right? Like, where's the security? Where's your concerns over any type of security over these absentee ballot drop boxes? The fact that they're in election of clerks' offices, yeah, that's a very good thing. They can monitor those. They usually have cameras for all of those places. They're usually CCTV monitored, so we can see who comes up and drops a ballot in these boxes. So if there's any issues, we can go back and look through the footage and blah, 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 blah. But, you know, it makes you wonder, why would they go to the length to make a lawsuit against having these absentee ballot drop boxes just all over the place? Like, how can you argue that it's voter suppression to have absentee ballot drop boxes in secure places? How? Just because you say it's suppression because they may not have a ride to the election clerk's office, huh? What you have tons of time to get there. There are many resources to allow anybody and everybody to, give your relative your absentee ballot and have them go drop it off at the clerk's office. I'm sure that's not really an issue, but they try to take something very insignificant and turn it into this big old ordeal to try to throw us off the case, right? Try to throw us off track to get us thinking that, it's voter suppression to not allow ballot drop boxes all over the dadgum place. It's outright ridiculous. And then they're trying to insinuate or outright accuse the federal government or any elections officials of violating the Civil Rights Act. Come on now, you guys can come up with a better argument for that, right? Just because your little trick you used in 2020 isn't going to work anymore. You don't have the universal mail-in ballots because there's no pandemic going on, so you have to rely on ballot harvesting. And, Republicans are now doing ballot harvesting. You're seeing all your options to cheat are going out the freaking window. So what are you going to do? Once again, draws us full circle all the way back around, a circuitous video, if you will, to figure out what is the play for the Democrats in 2024. We're still waiting, we're still watching, we're still trying to figure that out. If you guys have any theories out there or anything you know about, let me know down in the comment section. And that's all I got for this one. I want to thank everybody for watching, and y'all try to have a good day and stay legitical. Peace.